All right, Ellen. Ellen, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
So I was born in Spokane, Washington.
Tell me about your family.
Um, so I have a older sister who has the same parents as I, and then I think I know I have one brother and at least two sisters that I don't really know. They have the same father as me, but not the same mother. And I don't really. I met the little brother and one little sister when they were really small, but I haven't seen them for.
And your parents?
So I have, like, I call him a sperm donor. He is still alive, and that's where the little brothers and sisters come from. My mom, she and my stepdad, who I really call my dad, they were killed in 1984. I was 6 years old. They died on Mother's Day. They got in a head-on collision with a drunk driver. They were on a motorcycle going to put flowers on his mother's grave, and a drunk driver was driving down the wrong side of the highway with his headlights off and head-on collision and killed them on Mother's Day in '84. So as far as parents, there's none alive. The sperm donor, he's not any kind of part of my life anymore.
What happened to you after that accident?
Well, so I mean, I can go back to the recollection of that day. It was Mother's Day, and I was sort of mad at my mom because she was dropping me off at her parents' house.
You were how old?
I was 6.
6.
And I wanted to spend Mother's Day with her. It was really important to me. And she dropped me off and was spending it with, her new husband. And I was sort of mad about that. They went to put flowers on his mom's grave for that Mother's Day. And I remember waking up in the morning and everyone, I was in a house with my sister and my mom's parents, and they were gone. And so when I woke up in the middle of the night and it was just me, and my sister would have been 11, and we were the only two people in the house, I got really afraid. And in the morning they came and I heard them talking at the table, and they were talking about having to take me to a hospital. And they took me there, and I go in a room, and my mom was in the room, and her head looked like a watermelon. She couldn't speak. And the nurse came in and said, "What is he doing in here? Get him out of here. He can't be in here." And they said, "Well, this is her son." And so they took me out, and then they pulled the plug on her, and they took me to the scene of the wreck. And I get out of the car, and I see motorcycle parts, and I remember feeling good. I was like, oh, my dad just got a motorcycle. He'd love some of these parts. And then I found his driver's license, and I found a piece of my mom's shirt that she was wearing, and then it was like a realization that this was the scene of a wreck and she wasn't coming back. And so as a 6-year-old who was mad at his mom on Mother's Day, I felt horrible because, I kind of felt guilty that maybe I caused it, After that happened, my sister, she got to live with the parents of my mom, and I got put in a house with the guy who was our biological father. And I lived with him and his dad, and then there was some trailers there where like some cousins lived with their parents, and I had to do that it was about a year and a half there, and it was such an abusive place. I was electrocuted over and over. He would take me into a shop, and it was his dad's shop, and there was a clown on the wall. And when they turned on a switch, his nose lit up red. And there was a wire about this long underneath that. And when they wanted me to do the things that, there was 3 other boys in there. It was Dominic and Jeremy and Carl. They were my cousins. They would do things for him, and when I said no, I had to grab that wire, and it would electrocute me. And then when they did what they were supposed to, they got to grab me and grab the wire and electrocute me again and again. And I went through that for quite some time as a child. Going through that, all I learned was that what they were doing was supposed to be done by women, not men. And my mom had told me about that guy. One time I was hiding in my closet, and they were fighting, and I could hear it, and I was scared to go out and use the bathroom. So I peed in my room and hid in my closet because I was scared. And my mom found me, and she said, I married a mouse, not a man. You're going to grow up to be a man, and you can become a lion, because lions aren't afraid of that mouse. So come out of your closet. You're okay. And I mean, those are, some things that I remember about my mom. I remember her having tattoos, and I just remember she was such a good woman, and I knew that she was highly abused. And on that day where she died and I had to go look at that wreck, I remember feeling guilty because I was so mad at her. I wanted to be with her on Mother's Day, and sometimes I felt like maybe I caused this. I was so mad at her. And so after being in this house with that man who was molesting boys, on my birthday, it was my 8th birthday, and his dad was there, and he told his wife, her name was Gail, he said, Gail, go get him his present. And the guy who was abusing us, he said, you're going to become a man today. You're going out to that shop with me alone. They brought me out a cupcake. And the cupcake had a candle. And they lit it, and I did my birthday wish, and I wished whatever was causing this could stop, end. His dad, his head hit his coffee cup on the table, spilled the coffee on the floor, and they took him to the hospital. And we didn't go because the man who called himself dad to me said, you are coming out there with me now. And I said, well, this is something that women are supposed to do and not men, so can I put on a dress? He said, you've got 5 minutes to go in my wife's room and you find yourself something to wear, but you better be out in that shop. And I ran out. I went in there, jumped out the window, and ran away. Being on the streets at a young age was very hard.
This is how old?
I was 8. It was my 8th birthday, and I found a guy. He was probably 17, 18, and he ran with a gang that called themselves the Insanes. And he was the only white guy, and he had Whitey tattooed across his forehead, and he kind of took me in, and then I find myself living on the streets with a gang who, if you stole, they would shoot you. They let me see a kid ask, one of the gang members asked another one for a stick of big red gum, and he said, I only have 2 left. And he went to put it in his back pocket, and it hit the ground. And he started talking. The kid who asked him for it walked over and picked it up and put that stick in his mouth. That other one turned around and shot him dead. And that's what they did to thieves. And so when I was getting raised, they said, you don't steal and you stay in school. And that's kind of, I was in grade school living in tents and going, and I would find a girlfriend, and she would let me come over after her parents left for work and get ready for school. And that's kind of how I did my childhood, young ages. And I was separated from my sister, and we were in different states because she was still up there in Spokane, and when I had to move in with that man, I was living in Long Beach. And so it was like a really traumatic way of growing up. I spent a lot of time on the streets. they taught me to, they had these little pills and they called them cross tops. And they would say it was speed, and they would give me a bunch and say, sell this at school. And sometimes in grade school, I was selling this stuff, telling kids it'll make you run the mile faster. And that wound up getting me thrown out of a school in the 5th grade. And it was a really hard way to grow up. Eventually I found a family in Long Beach that they were getting ready to move to a town called Green Acres, and it was near Spokane. And when they were going up there, buying a house and stuff like that, they took me along. Their little sisters became like girlfriends of mine, and they took me up there once, and I was able to locate my sister, and I was able to get away from Long Beach and these gangs and get up there to where my sister was. And it was a really tough way of growing up, because by the time I was 6th grade, I remember I got put in a school up there and lived at the place where my sister was. And I was already selling drugs. I would leave and go live at the cemetery where my mom was buried, because there was a castle up on the hill. And it had, like, there's a cemetery down here, and her picture was on her gravestone. And so I would speak with her, and then I'd go up this hill, and there was a castle up there. And there was used to be like a little, maybe a pond or something, but there was no water in it. But I would play up there and stay in the castle, and I liked that better than having a house. I'd been on the street so long. My growing up as a childhood, I never really got that childhood. I did remember that my mom had tattoos, and I remember when she came in my closet and told me, I married a mouse, not a man. When you become a man, I want you to be a lion, so you're not scared of the mouse. And so when I was in kindergarten, I remember my kindergarten teacher watched me draw a lion, and she said, "You are a really good artist." And that kindergarten teacher was at my mom's funeral, so I really liked that. And that was around the time where I decided I wanted to become a tattooer. I wanted to do tattoos on people like my mom had. And so by the time I was in 6th grade, I had started tattooing on myself and some people and kind of learning that trade. But I grew up so fast and so, and I mean, by that time, one of the families who was going up to that Green Acres, they had moved up there from Long Beach. So now I knew people from where I was out, and it was just, it was quite a way to grow up. So as far as parents, I became one when I was 13. Had my first, and now I'm a parent of 4 kids, and I got a grandson. He's 9 now. It's been quite a life as far as parents go.
How old are you now?
Now I'm 44. I'll be 45 next month, January.
Did you raise any of your kids?
Yeah. So my first 2. I was really a good part of their life. They moved to Portland, Oregon, and as soon as they moved there, I would go there. I was homeless there for a while, and then I got a house up in Vancouver, Washington, so I was close to them, and I've always been a good part of their life. Now my younger 2, and they're Shawnee, she's 30. She'll be 31 here in a couple months, and then I have a daughter, Cora. She's 24. And then now I have a 10 and a 12-year-old, and they're up in Spokane, Washington. And they lived with me when I was up there. I have a house up there still, but they lived with me a lot, and we did shared custody and stuff like that. But for the last couple of years, I've been back down here and haven't seen him. So as of now, I wouldn't say that I'm being a great parent. My older two, I was in a coma last year from Thanksgiving Day until February, and they came and saw me in the hospital while I was in a coma. And so I've talked to them after I came out. The doctors had told them, if we can't get him out of this coma by New Year's, he's going to be dead. And I didn't come out of it until February. So my kids all thought I was dead. So, you know, I talked to the younger two's mom and let them know. And the older two I've spoke with on the phone, let them know, like, I'm okay, I'm alive. But I haven't been seeing them. You know, I've just kind of been down here just pretending I don't even have kids, which is awful. But
Why were you in a coma?
so on Thanksgiving, part of my thing that separated me from the kids is drug sales. And on Thanksgiving, I was down in San Diego and I picked up a lot of drugs, and then I went to Oceanside and dropped them off and picked up a bunch of money. And so I'm on a bicycle with a saddlebag attached to it, and I had a lot of money in there. And it's late at night, and pretty soon a car, we're the only two people on the road, swerves across, hits me on the bike. And so I'm laid, my bike's, I don't know, maybe 20 feet away from me, and then the car pulls between me and the bike, and I'm thinking, okay, he's coming to help. And then he hits me, hits the bike, hits me, hits the bike, hits me, hits the bike. Now when I come to, he's over there breaking into the saddlebag. And I get up and start coming over there, and he turned around, stuck that screwdriver right there. And it went into my liver. I was in a coma right there. He stole all the money. I woke up it was right around Valentine's Day. So then they put me in an aftercare home. And I stayed there a little while until I had tubes in my neck and tubes in my stomach, and they cut the ones out of my stomach, and I left. I left that day, still had a tube coming out of my neck, and I left that in for a few months. And when I got it removed, which was, it was around May, where I finally went in and had them cut it off, and I said, don't you glue this hole shut? You used to sew them, I hear you glue them now. They said, oh no, we're not gonna glue that shut. It's gonna heal in a couple hours, don't worry. And here it is, 6-7 months later, big hole. My liver's lost, they said between 70 and 90% of its function. So I don't heal anymore. So now I'm at the point where I have to go in, and if they have a cadaver, they'll cut some skin off of it and patch the hole. And if not, I have to let them cut some skin off of me somewhere and patch the hole. So it's just been kind of that's why I kind of got to sit here and choke this, because it's breathing, and it's just but it's been it's been rough. I got robbed for a lot of money.
How much money do you lose?
$200,000. It was a deal where we stay up in Woodland Hills near Calabasas, and the rent there was too much, and the girlfriend wouldn't leave, and I'm just I don't even go home. I don't want to be around her because she's just so into money. And so it was a point where we were going to do like a seller financing. The people who we were renting it from wanted to sell it, and it was going to be a money exchange so that we could finance it. That way they make a down payment, it goes to the seller, and then the monthly payments would go to my girlfriend so that she could just go rent a house and not have me pay for everything anymore, because things have gotten just rough.
If you had $300,000 on you in a bicycle, why didn't you just hire a cab or Uber or something like that?
Because the reason I was down there and with that much money, I'm in the drug selling world, and what I have to do to go get the drugs, and I had already dropped them off. That's my biggest worry. So I'm not going to do that in a car, because I mean, I travel around a lot, and when you have California plates, you don't want to leave California when you got drugs in your car. I've been caught in Oregon and in Washington with several kilos, and so bicycles is just kind of a way for me to avoid that, and I'm trying to better myself and get out of that hole.
Do you think the guy that hit you knew what you had?
Yeah, where I purchased it, there was a girl there, and she was a prostitute, and she had never been there when I was leaving, so she never really knew. She was always there, but when I would come, she would try and get me to buy her, and I wouldn't. And that time when I left, she was still there. She called someone and told them, he's going to be traveling through, and he has 100 kilos of heroin. I think you should. And so it was a robbery. It was a robbery. And I'll call it a job. The people I work for, I paid up front. So why not just rob me and take it back is kind of how that went,
And because of how you got it, you can't really report it to the police.
Well, the person who did it, I'm told that I wasn't taken to the hospital in an ambulance. I was dropped off there in a coma. And so my thinking is that guy must have dropped me off, because there was no one else out. It was late at night, and I don't think somebody just saw me laying there. I think but I don't know. Like I say, I was in a coma for a few months, and by the time I came out, my biggest worry wasn't about any of that. It was about my kids thought I was dead. Yeah. And they had visited me on Christmas, I guess, and that's when the doctor told him, if we can't get him out of this by New Year's, he's going to be dead. So my biggest thing was just, I have a fear that my kids aren't from California, and my biggest fear is when I was young and my parents were dead, I wanted to figure out what was going on, and my biggest fear is my kids coming down to LA and trying to figure out what Dad's been up to the last couple of years before he died. I'm also in fear of, they find me dead, the city will probably do a burning, and there won't be ashes or a cemetery for my kids to visit. And all that stuff is the kind of stuff that I just think about and I'm in fear of, that was important for me. When your parents die, you sometimes have to go talk to a gravestone to talk to them. And so I just feared that, that was the biggest thing for me, is just, I got to deal with this stuff with the kids and figure out now. I don't know how much longer I have to live. I don't think long. And now my fear is, what should I do? Should I go die where my kids are? Should I just pay for a cremation now so that they can get ashes and necklaces? That's the kind of world that I'm in right now, and it's a hard place to be, but I don't want my kids down here trying to figure out what I was doing for the last couple of years, because LA is, you can step in two circles here. Yeah. You either become rich or you die trying.
Are you still using?
No. So heroin, I was a heroin addict I started when I was 13. And I was a heroin addict for, I think, 27, 28 years. When I finally stopped, I was using 13 grams of heroin a day, which is a lot. And finally, I remember the day. I looked at the coffee maker, and there was a spoon next to it with brown, residue from coffee. And I was supposed to be making the kids breakfast because they were running late for school. And when I saw that spoon, all I could think of is, you don't need to make them breakfast. Fuck breakfast. Go get yourself well. And that was something set it off, and I stopped. I stopped using heroin at that time. I've used maybe 3 or 4 times since then, but I've been clean for years off of it. Sometimes I'll smoke marijuana still, but not very often. I haven't for months now, but I got out of that world. And now, up until a couple months ago, I was a pretty major heroin dealer. I just came out of jail yesterday. for violating my parole for heroin sales. I didn't violate it with heroin sales. I was on parole for that. I was up in Pelican Bay. I think I got out in 19 or 20, and I wasn't checking in when I was in the coma, and so they violated me for not checking in. And I just left there yesterday, and now that I'm out, I've made it a total decision. You are not a drug dealer. You are not going to prey upon people, because that's what a heroin dealer does. I go to places where hookers are and hand out free samples with my phone number. I go to strip clubs and I prey upon weakness. I know that if a girl's doing that, she needs drugs to make it okay for inside herself, and I prey upon that. And I'm done. I'm not going to do that to people anymore. I was at a point where I could have hundreds of pounds of heroin and not use it, but I'm not going to prey upon weak anymore. I was weak and I was preyed upon, and I'm not anymore. I don't care if I wind up homeless. I don't care. I'm out of the drug world. That's what needs to happen. I need to grow up. My mom told me to become a man and a lion, and I'm just a mouse like that guy.
So what are your plans now for your future?
So I'm a tattooer, and here at Rockstar Studios here in Chinatown, I tattoo out of there. I have a tattoo shop in Portland where those kids are, and one of my daughters up there, you have to have a CNA to do body piercing. You have to be so I put her to school so that she could get her CNA, and she's been working there piercing people. And when I just talked to her recently, she said, I'm making $500 to $1,000 a day. So that shop's going to stay open because I have a tattooer up there, and then my daughter is doing the piercing, and that's really good money. I mean, I wasn't even making that when I was tattooing every day. So from here on out, I'm a steel stud framer. I'm a concrete worker, a plaster, a drywall taper, finisher, spray. I've done roofing. I have a long history of. I have business degrees. I have graphic design degree. You know, I can go anywhere. I just need to get my location. I need to figure out where I'm going to be, because staying here, I was here because of the drug world, because you can get it here cheap and you can take it everywhere and make more. But I think I need to get back up where my kids, I'm not quite sure how this is going to play out, but whether it'll be Oregon or Washington, but I think I should be with my kids, probably my younger ones.
You definitely shouldn't be down here.
No, I shouldn't.
Not as a former heroin addict.
This is one of the drug capitals of the United States, and the cost of it for me has become so cheap that it would be hard. It's going to be hard not to be a dealer. It's going to be hard not to start using, because when you're away from your kids and you love them, it's hurting inside. And as a heroin addict, I know how to cure the hurt. So, and it doesn't cure it. It just puts a Band-Aid on it and destroys your life. So, I mean, my oldest daughter, because my younger, not my young kids yet, but my 24-year-old, she gets into drugs and I have to go deal with it. My oldest, she doesn't smoke, she doesn't drink, she won't do drugs. And I was talking to her recently and I said, how come you're, and she says, do you remember a house you used to take me to? He used to hit his wife because he wanted to give you the money, not her. And he used to throw her out of bed and make people get off the couch so we could sit down. She said, I know what you were doing. You were selling them drugs, and I don't ever want to be those people. And when she told me that, because she was little, sitting on a diaper bag with drugs, and I didn't realize at that age what I was doing to her, but it worked in a way that she wants nothing to do with the drug world. And I told her, I said, you know why I was selling those drugs? I was using them. And she says, yeah, but you didn't treat us like that. When I saw those people, it made me never want to do that stuff. And so there's a good and a bad. However, the daughter who got left at home, she gets into all kinds of things. And so I don't know. I can't say that taking your child along on heroin sales is good, but for my oldest Shawnee, it worked. It made her hate it. And when I heard that, I guess it probably put a Band-Aid over the wound that I had as being a 15-year-old, setting a child on a diaper bag full of drugs and taking her to places like that. But those insane guys who raised me, that's what it was. You don't steal, you go to school. And there was a point where I had to drop out of school. When I was 15, I found a place that if you got a GED, they would pay you to go volunteer somewhere. And at 15, I needed to get an apartment because the mom and my first daughter were homeless. And I needed to get them into an apartment, and I was only 15. So I went and got a GED real quick, and I went to this place called City Stores. And it was a warehouse that got cops and firemen everything they needed for the day. And I worked there and made minimum wage, but I was able to get an apartment for that little girl who, her mom was on drugs because I was her drug dealer. And they got an apartment, and now that mom is amazing. She's done amazing things. That daughter's done amazing things. And I think it's time for me to do some amazing things,
That's great.
That's...
If you had your life to live all over again, what would you have done differently?
To be honest, I look at people who never went through the struggles that I did, and they have a different take on religion and who their God is. They're taught in the church this certain way of life. And me, I remember being little, screaming at that God. You created me and you took my mom away. You took my dad away. You put me on the streets. I hate you. But then, after I'd be hurting on the streets, then I would be saying, please help me through this. I don't have parents to buy me school clothes. God, please help me. Help me, God. And I developed a relationship where me and my Creator, we speak. And God doesn't have a voice that He's able to talk to me. But if I stop listening to my own little navigation system and I just go with what the day brings, I live the story that my God created for me. And that story introduces me to the right people. I'll be at the right place at the right time. And life just is amazing when you live the story that Creator made. But every time I try and navigate, I wind up going back to childhood. When a child started becoming a man, maybe 12 or 13, I go backwards. And so now I'm in a place where nothing matters. I hate money. Why do I want to make all this money destroying people's lives? I hate money. Money destroys you. And so if I just live my life, I don't care if I sleep on a street because I have a loving relationship with my Creator. And a lot of people don't have that. They learned about the book of the Bible in their own way. They probably don't even understand Revelations. When I read Revelations, I saw we're about chapter 22. That's the whole Bible in one little book. And people just get stuck on this, pray to Jesus. And we don't pray to Jesus. We don't ask Jesus for forgiveness. We learn to forgive others by knowing what Jesus did. We don't have to ask Him for forgiveness. He was given up for forgiveness. And once you get to a level like that, you just go with God's story. And sometimes He makes a love story out of your life, and it's amazing. He takes you to the right people at the right time. It's been a really tremendous life. I mean, some of the stuff that I have been through, it disgusts me. But if I'd stopped writing my own story, I don't think it would have been like that. So from here on out, it's just why go sell drugs and destroy her life so that I can have a fancy house? I'm fine. I'll be fine. My God will always take care of me. It doesn't matter. Last night I slept in a parking lot because I had just met a man who, I asked him for a lighter because I wanted to smoke a cigarette and just left jail. And he gave me a lighter, and everyone who takes the time to speak to me, and I've been told dude, you need to go to Hollywood and get someone to make a movie about your life. Because when they hear about my life, they're just like, whoa. But I think that having that tough life, that's what gave me a relationship with God. Because if you don't go through it, you just take what maybe the Catholics teach and you're fine. Oh, just ask Jesus for forgiveness. Well, no, that's not what the book says. The book says be like Jesus and forgive. I don't have to ask for forgiveness. I live in a world of sin. But when somebody steals from me, I have to forgive them. And that's the hard part. But if you really want to take what God gave, his son, he gave away his son. Not to ask for forgiveness, but to teach us how to forgive. And that's my take on, that part of it. That's where I've developed a different kind of religion than a lot of people have. I believe in the Bible, but I know that the one book they never taught me was Revelations. And when I came out of my coma and God asked me, so can I have your son? And I said, no, God, please don't hurt Ace. Please, if you need a body, just take my soul. Don't hurt my son. And then it was like, God said, wow, you do know what love is. And then I realized my whole life, I don't know what love was. I think you're supposed to learn it from your mom. I don't remember learning it, but I do know that I've been married, I think 4 times. I've been with women up and down, but my thing is, I pretend to love them because I want them. And when a prettier one walks by, I don't want her no more. I want her. I pretend love to her. That ain't love. Love is not about sex with a pretty girl, because I love my children. Don't want to have sex with them. I want to put them above myself. If I got $10 in my pocket and I want something, I know that, man, my son really needed a new binder for school. I don't need it. Here. Because their future is above me. And that's love. And once I learned that, which was just recently, life has changed. I meet people on the streets and I love them. I love people. And when I start a relationship now, I had one girl say to me, are you trying to have sex with me? I said, no, I'm your friend and I love you. And when she was feeling this love, she started loving me back, asked me to marry her and have kids with me. And I was like, whoa, where did this come from? She's probably never been loved, because I know I went through a life, maybe 20 or 30 women. Never loved them. I didn't love them, because if I did, I would still love them. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey, but I'm really happy, especially, so I think I was just in there for around 60 days. They gave me 120 days, so I think I did half of it. And it was cool because I remember for the last few days I was there, I would look over and I'm on a bunk, and they call these the cut, where people can be right between 2 bunks. And I would look down and there'd be like 6 people there sharing a needle shooting up. Hey, you want some? And I was able to say, no, not only do I not want to share a needle with about 20 people, I don't want the drugs. I do not want to get high. I'm here because out there, I lose it. I go for money, and then I land here. I'm done here. I'm too old to be doing this. I can't be in jails and prisons, and I'm done. And so now hitting that, we had a guy doing AA meetings, and I loved it. I loved being able to give my little parts of the story to people who were trying to quit. And then one night, he didn't have the AA meeting. I look over, he's over there shooting somebody up with whatever they had. I think they had a crystal or something. And you're the AA leader. It was like, whoa. I mean, I think it's finally a point in my life where I can just push all that stuff away and just go maybe be the father. That my mom said, become a lion. Be a man, not a mouse. I think I'm there. I think I'm ready to really just be a man. And, you know, a man isn't away from his kids, letting them grow up without a dad. You should be there. And, you know, my 2 older kids, they have houses. I got them houses. My 2 younger kids, one of them is going to have a house. I let an old man live there who lost his wife and had some problems, and they wanted to put him in a home. So I said, no, you move into my house. We're going to remodel your house, sell it so that you have money, and we're going to get you a caretaker. So they live in my house for free so that they care for him. He was my neighbor, and he's a good guy. So that'll be probably my son's house because he'll pass away before my son is 18. But that's my thing, is take care of your kids. Don't ever let them be like this out on the streets. So I don't know. I probably veered off the question.
No, you have an interesting life story, don't you?
Oh, you haven't even heard the gist of it, but I don't want to, you know, get too deep into something because I don't even know if I answered your question.
It's all right. Alan, thank you so much for sharing your story.
I mean, and I'll give you anything. I mean, my story gets rough. I mean, it gets rough.
Maybe we'll have you back again.
Oh, okay.
But I wish you the best of luck now that you're out.
Yeah, I'm out, and life is gonna change. I do believe life is gonna change, and man, oh, jeez, I remember being 13 and having that first shot of heroin and having 2 20-year-olds have a threesome with me, because they came back into my life a couple times later and destroyed me. She was called Satan of Seattle, and she gave me a tattoo of the devil with a needle in front of him. It's awful. It's awful. And that life, so awful. I really hope that it could get better from here, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it can.
Especially if you stay away from the drugs.
Oh yeah, the drug scene is not the place to be. I can't believe how many lives I've destroyed just for money. Why as people do we get so addicted to money? I mean, here in California, it's expensive to live, but it's warm. If you're homeless, it ain't that bad. Mm-hmm. I mean, last night was pretty cold, but it's December. You know, I think the change is of the utmost importance. Man, oh, the places I've been, the DEA just killed my girlfriend, the one that I was up there in I got her in Livermore, but we were up in Woodland Hills, and the DEA, after they arrested me, they raided it and killed her. That's what I do to lives, you know? The drug scene, we wind up dead or wishing we were. It's so awful.
All right. Alan, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
I wish you lots of luck from here. Thank you.